Let's get started with Skitch. When you open up the app for Skitch the very first time, I want you to make a customization that will interlink it with your Evernote account. Down at the bottom, if you see the gears button on the right hand side, I want you to click the gears button. And we are going to click on the Evernote selection, and then we'll select Sign In to Evernote. Right here, you'll type in your username and password that we created a few minutes ago for our Evernote account. And then click on Sign In. Now you've signed into Evernote. You can make a couple of changes here. First of all, if we click on Notebook, we can select whether we want our Skitch documents to go into our first notebook or our main Evernote notebook, or to go into any other notebook that we've already created. I'm going to leave mine in first notebook. And we can also make a selection to toggle on or off Copy to Evernote on Share. This means that whenever you share a sketch that you have created, it will automatically be copied to your Evernote account. I'm going to leave that toggled on. I suggest you do that as well because that's a great time saver for you. To back out of this, you can go ahead and click on the back button for settings, and then you can click Done up in the top right hand corner. So let's talk about what Skitch does. Skitch will allow you to annotate pictures and documents and add items such as text, arrows, circles, or other shapes. So to get started, you can either take a picture or you can select a picture that's already been taken from your camera roll. I'm going to select this picture that has already been taken from my camera roll, and I'm going to add some annotations for it. Over on the left-hand side, if you see the blue circle, yours might be a different color. If you'll tap on top of that circle, you can select what color you would like your annotation to be in. And by selecting the series of increasing in size circles at the bottom, you can select what size you would like your annotation to be. I'm going to stick with blue. And the first annotation I'm going to add is an arrow. So on the right hand side where you see the arrow icon, yours might be a little bit different. If you will select your finger on top of that, you can pick which annotation you'd like to use. I'm going to stick with the arrow, and I'm going to draw an arrow onto my screen pointing to the Snapchat icon. The next annotation I'm going to add is I'm going to add text annotation. So to change from the arrow to the text tool, I will select the arrow and then go to the A, which is my typing tool, and I'm going to tap my finger on the screen where I would like to type. So right here I'm going to type in Snapchat, and then I'll say done. So the default for your text will be to have an outline in the color that you've selected. If you would like to change that, then you'll select the word that you've written, and above it you can click on the A icon, and that will make it into a simple text without the outline and thickness as we saw before. Again, it will be in the color that we have selected. If you want to change it from blue to a different color, then if you will tap your finger on top of the change that you've added and then select a color, you can make your change as you need to. Let's talk about some of the other annotations you can add. One that I really like is a blur annotation, so if you'll select that one, and then I'm going to draw a box on top of my picture. That will blur out anything written underneath it. So this is a great tool if you have a form that is completed and maybe you need to disguise a student's name or any identifying characteristics. The blur tool is great for you to use. Another tool that we can use would be to point out. So there are different point outs you can use. Some of them are hearts, check marks, questions, or the exclamation point. So I'm going to add the check mark here, and I'm just going to draw it on top of the screen. Once it's on there, I can change it to where I want it. And notice that if you put one on there and you want to get rid of it, then you just select what you've added and then click the delete button at the bottom of the screen. The next annotation we can add would simply be the marker. There are two different ways to use the marker. The first one is simply to black something out. And again, it's going to come in the color you've selected, so I'm going to change my marker to red. So I'm going to black out have an account but don't really use it. That's going to completely black out what's written underneath it. Your other option would be to use the marker tool as a highlighter. So again, if you'll select the marker tool, pick the highlighter icon right next to it, and this time it'll act as a highlighter. So now we're just highlighting that Pinterest is a source of procrastination for grown-ups. Note that you can still read what's underneath it. It's not acting like a Sharpie marker to black something out. That's the marker tool. The next tool we'll look at is the shape tool. So if you'll go to your tools and select the shape, there are three different shapes we can use. We have a line, a circle, a rounded oval, and we also have a square. I'm going to go with the rounded oval, and I'm going to change my color to green, and I'm going to draw a green rounded oval around one of the words on my screen here. Once I've drawn it, I can make it bigger or smaller by dragging out on the blue points that represent the edges of it, and I can also simply put my finger in the middle of it. Note that I accidentally drew an extra shape, so to get rid of it, I'll just select my finger on top of it and then press the delete button at the bottom of the screen. These are some of the different shapes that you can add onto your pictures in order to annotate them. Once you are done with the changes that you want to make, up at the top right hand corner you will see the action icon. That's the icon that looks like a square with an arrow pointing up out of it. This will allow you to send what you've been working on to other programs within your iPad. So if you will click on the action icon for me, we have a couple of different things we can do. As far as sharing options, notice that I have share highlighted at the bottom of my screen. You can mail it, send it to Facebook, open it in another app, post it to Twitter, or message it to someone. What I want to do is save. So I'm going to swipe my screen over to the left to go into the save. My options are to save my picture that I've annotated to Evernote, to the clipboard so that I can paste it into another app, or put it into photos, or using that action icon I can do more. What I want to save this to is my camera roll, so I'm going to select photos as my saving option. And now that it has been sent, I have a check mark with sent at the top of my screen. I do have other options available for me at the bottom of the screen. Notice that I can continue to edit this, I can start a new sketch, or I can share it again. I want to remind you that earlier when we signed into our Evernote account within Skitch, that we did select the option to save all of our sketches to Evernote within our notebook. So those will all be available for us there once we've chosen to save it somewhere else, in this instance in the camera roll. So that's Skitch that goes within Evernote. It is a great app that will help you annotate PDFs or pictures. I like to use it to give step-by-step directions for forms to fill out or for where to click within certain programs.